everyone, my name is Kelsi Jackson. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and today I'll be showing you some tips and techniques on how I do my traditional inking. So a little bit of background about me is that I've been doing art all my life like any other artist. And throughout middle school and high school, I took classes in art because I was so passionate about it. I just wanted to be surrounded by art. And so when I went to college, when I went to college, I went to art school, got a degree in fine arts and everything. And I did many things, and one of them was sequential art and illustrations, and strangely ceramics too. It's a strange combination, but it went together. But when I got out of college, that first, I believe, January, for 30 days, I did these ink drawings of ink portraits actually, and I did one for each day. They were pretty small, about 5 by 7, and every day that I did one, my love for ink just grew more and more. And so nowadays, all I do is pretty much either traditional, like inking, or I do digital drawings. So right now, what I'm going to tell you guys about is the types of materials and mediums I use to do some of my traditional drawings. So first, I'm gonna move some of this to the side because it's in my way. So first thing I want to talk about is like getting started with my drawings. I pretty much use a pencil. I use mechanical pencils to do my drawings. I either will use a black lead, red, or blue. So these are some of the pens I use. It's mechanical. This one is so used that all the information is rubbed off. So another one would be this one. I believe it's by Alvin drafting pencils. I really love these. They're not expensive, but they're a reasonable price. And I have like 3 of these in my home, and I keep one pen has regular lead in it, one has red, and one has blue. And then the next one will be one of these pencils. I love using these. I have the little sandpaper pad where I can scratch the lead down to a fine point, and it's actually I believe it's a 2H. The lighter the pencil is, the lead is, the less dark your drawing will be, or the less erasing you'll have to do. So that's pretty much the starting point. So next thing is the type of pens I use. So off the bat, the first pen I was introduced to was the micron pens. I used this throughout all of college. I used these. They were easy to get and quick to use, and overall they were just nice. And so they come in like different sizes, starting from 0.025 to all the way to like I think 0.8 or something. But the ones I have right now are the ones I use the most. I use this one's 0.202. Let's see. This one's 3. Let's see. This one's the 0.005. I'm sorry. The smallest one I use is 0.005. And so because I like to do fine detailed drawings, so these are the microns I use. And recently I started purchasing the Pigma brush microns, and it's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice brush pen, pretty soft, not too hard, just enough to give me a nice variation in line width. So these are pretty good. Let's see. So the next set of pens are, like I said, I like to do fine line work or fine details. So I carry this no matter where I go. I go everywhere with this little thing. And a lot of people don't understand why, because it's such a fine tip. This is the Pentel I cannot even pronounce it. It's SLICCI. it's about 0.25. I have at least 5 of these hidden in my room or something. Like if I run out of one, I'm gonna find another one. So I don't leave without this. And I guess one of the reasons why I just like the fine line is, again, I like to do fine details. I like to do shading, and these pens allow me to do that. So if you're interested in doing fine details and having really rich values and shades, I would suggest getting one of these. This pen is it's by Pilot actually. It's pretty much the same thing as this one. It's just a different type. I like to purchase different type of pens and just test them out and see if I like them or not. So those two are pretty much the same thing. The next pen is the Ballpoint Pen. So when I was in high school and middle school, one of the pens I would always have is a ballpoint pen. Everyone had a ballpoint pen or a pencil, and everyone would draw with it. I was one of those people that would have a ballpoint pen, sitting in class and just doing this while the teacher's just talking, and I'm just like, all right, yeah, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. So this is a great sketching tool and putting in detail work and everything. It is by Zebra. I like the Zebra ballpoint pens. They're pretty nice. Sometimes when I get a ballpoint pen, if I get a bad batch, I'll get that glop of ink that pops out. This doesn't happen with the Zebra pen as often, so I tend to purchase the Zebra pens and just keep them in my like box or my stuff. So that is the pens. Now we're going to actually jump into we're going to jump into some more brush pens actually. So the main brush pen I use, it's not technically a pen actually, it's the Aqua Wash watercolor brush. So I was watching YouTube, some girl on YouTube, and she was talking about these, and she was like, you don't always have to just put water in it to do watercolors. You can also put ink in it. I was like, what? I can put ink in there? All right, let me go buy some. And then I went to go buy some, and I was just like, why are these so expensive? I don't want to pay $10, but anyway, I had to. I paid whatever, $7, $10 or something for these things. But I don't regret buying it. This is like, I'm so glad that I was watching that video and that girl told me about it, because I've been using, this is what I use to do the 30-day drawings of the portraits. I use this brush pen, and so what's in it is actually my Speedball ink. That's what's in here, and it is very fluid. The bristles are synthetic, so not like hair. They can either fall out or they can get crinkled and stuff like that. With the synthetic, you don't really get that. The only downside is you will get a buildup around this area right here, and it kind of sucks. I gotta clean it up. And I had one time where I just decided to just take it all apart and truly clean it out. Man, that took way too long to do. So I was just like, I'm just gonna buy some more and just put these on the side, because I don't have time to clean these. But they're a great tool to have in your pencil pouch and stuff like that. They're good for on the go. Just make sure that when you put ink in there or anything in there, just make sure the cap is on tight, and because ink will flow out, because I've had that happen to me before. So these are pretty awesome. You can get them actually I've seen them at Walmart, and you can get them at any art store. You just go to Amazon and purchase them. Same thing with the other materials. The one where I got these right here is pretty much art stores like Flax, Blick, like binders. It's just, you can get them at any art store. The next one, and I actually recently just purchased this, is the Pentel. I can't really remember the proper name, but it's a Pentel pocket pen, and it's very nice, very sleek. It's very beautiful. If you want one, come to Flax and get one. I'm just playing. But I believe, yeah, so similar to the Aqua Wash pocket pen, it has the same synthetic bristles, so you don't have those fine hairs that'll pop out and crinkle or anything. It comes with ink cartridges. It's not automatically in the pen when you purchase it. It's separated, so you have to put one in there. But once you put it in there and you get the ink flowing, it's very smooth, and there's not a lot of what's it called? Like flaring on when you leave a line. It's very smooth, very crisp, and very even. So I highly recommend this pen. It's very nice. You can take it wherever you go. It's portable and everything. You can, like I said, you can get this one on Amazon, in the art store. I believe in the art store sell this. I think I got this from Binders or something. That's not Binders, but yeah, I think Binders. All right. So next we're going to talk about this white pen right here. It's by Uniball. It's the Sigma Uniball by Uniball. I've been looking for white pens for quite some time because you make mistakes, all right? You put ink somewhere and you'll be like, oh crap, I didn't mean to put it right there. And so you want a white pen or something, or paint or something to just kind of cover it up. And lately I've been looking for the pen versions because I also put highlights in my drawings, and I needed like a really opaque, not opaque, but really, white that will stay white and not become translucent or anything. And so far, out of all the ones I've gone through, I think the Uniball is the best. I just wish there was a finer tip version of it. I think the top tip is too wide. It needs to be a little bit more fine because I do a lot of fine details. But overall, this is pretty good. It leaves white pretty well. You could do a lot of good corrections with it, and as well as leave highlights. So yeah, this is what it looks like. And once again, pretty much everything I have, actually, so I don't have to keep saying this, you can get from Amazon or from the art store. Or Flax. The next one I'm actually going to jump into are when I need to fill in black a lot. So the first set I'm going to talk about are my markers. And I used to fill in a lot of my stuff with Sharpie and stuff like that, because Sharpie has broad, chisel ends and then the fine tips, so I can put a little bit more fine details. But I'm able to cover my drawing a lot with the Sharpies and stuff like that. But recently I got same company that makes the microns, which is Sakura, that makes this what's it called, this permanent marker. I saw my friend at school use it, and her drawings were coming out. She does really thick line work when she does her sequential art, and I was really intrigued by how like black it was. And so I told her, hey, what you're using? She showed me this, and I went out and I bought it, and when I used it, I was like amazed by how black this was and how smooth it is. So I went ahead and bought 2 more and stuff like that. So along with my Sharpie and using ink, I use this when I need to fill something in real quick. So let's see, it's called Permapake, PERMAPAQUE. One side is a fine tip, and then the other side is pretty much a chisel. So it's a double head. So if you are interested in this, once again, you can get it, Amazon, Flax, and any other art store. All right. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is my dip pens. So if anyone's ever used a dip pen, you probably know what it looks like. But I'm going to switch these around and bring them right here. So I didn't use dip pen. I started using dip pens right when I got out of no, my 4th year of college, because I was taking a sequential art class, of course, and I believe he introduced us to the dip pens, and I actually already knew about these, but I wasn't too intrigued
by using them until I started taking this class, and he was telling us, my professor was telling us all the different type of ways we can use the dip pens, the reason why you use a dip pen, and so a lot of illustrators and manga artists still use dip pens, because out of all this, other than my brushes, which I'm going to come to later, out of all the pens up here, and this will give you a range of line thickness and value. You can go from very thin to really thin lines to really wide lines, and you do need a array of heads. So what makes up the dip pen is that you have the shaft, which is what you hold, and then the top part, which I'm gonna put this down, and I'm gonna grab this one, is called the nib. So this part is the nib, and the nib consists of is made out of metal, and it's really fine point, and that fine point is actually split in half. So you got two little pieces of metal just split in half, and so there's a base which is a hole right here. It holds the ink, and so when you're drawing on the paper, the ink is slowly running down these skinny little line that's made by the two pieces of metal, and it goes onto your paper. So there's different nibs, like right here that I was just showing y'all. There's the big one where you can make the thicker lines. You can still make skinnier lines, but you won't achieve really fine tip lines unless you use one of these. These where you can get those really fine, oh my hand, I'm about to drop it, those really fine lines. And so when you're using one of these fine liners, you have to use one of these dip pens. Unfortunately, I cannot take this out, and I don't want to stab myself, but there's a hole in here for this to slide into, like, because this whole metal part is a cylinder, it just slides in there. Let's see. And then this one's a little bit different, and I don't know if y'all can see that or not, but this is the base. There is a small ring on the top of this, and in that ring allows you to take this type of quill and slide it in. I'm not gonna struggle with that. That's pretty much what it is, though. It allows you to slide it in. So yeah, and so the type of ink I use for my dip pens is I've experimented with ink. When I was in school, I used Sumi ink for the majority of my school days, and I'm not too sure why I just stuck with it. I could have got anything else. I could have got Higgins, I could have got Speedball, but during school I used Sumi ink. I believe it's not waterproof. I believe it's water soluble, so you can create values and shades with that. But I started to do illustrations to where, like, I don't need my sweat glands to be smudging my drawing, so I need waterproof ink. And so one of the number one inks I use is Dr. P.H. Martin. I love this ink. This ink is amazing to me. It's like a true black. It lays flat. It's matte and everything, and it hasn't. I'm not too sure how long I've had it, but it hasn't. I know some inks to go on a little bit rancid if you leave the top off of it for too long. This hasn't yet, because sometimes I'll forget to put the top back on. I'll be like, oh crap, it's gonna get rancid or something. But so far, it's been a true black. It's amazing, and I really love it. So let's see. And then the next black I have is my Speedball ink. It is waterproof. It is pretty much similar to the PH Martin. It's not as dark as PH Martin, but I find it to be pretty good too. And so I do a lot of large drawings, ink drawings, and so Speedball always carries like a large like 16 ounces of this stuff, and so I just went ahead and bought the 16 ounces so I never have to go back and buy a whole bunch of the ink wells and stuff like that. So between the two, when I do small drawings, I mostly use the PH Martin, and when I do my larger drawings, I'll go ahead and use my Speedball. So yeah, and along with using my PH Martin Black, I went ahead and purchased their white ink, not ink, but they're kind of like their, you know, that white out where I was talking about, that pen where I need to make corrections as well as put highlights. This goes so well with the black. It complements it so well. Their formula is actually only meant for PH Martin, because one time I was using Speedball and I put the white on top. It just sat there like water on like a non-porous surface. It just sat there, and I was just like, okay, well, I see what this is. This is only meant for the PH Black. So but it's still a good white. It is like, it's true to its color. It stays white. It doesn't become transparent or anything, and it dries once it's on the paper and it stays there. It dries, I believe, pretty quickly. So yeah, and along with so those are the inks and, you know, I use for my dip pens and stuff like that. And now the next thing I use are brushes. If I'm not using my pens or my dip pens or any of these right here, my pocket brushes, I'm using my regular old brushes, because when you're in sequential art, they're like, I was given just this brush right here. This brush right here, this is all my professor told me to purchase. And I was just like, okay. So it is the Professional Winsor Newton Watercolor Sable Round number 6. So I've had this for it'll be about 3 years now, and I still use it to this day. At first I sucked at using this brush right here, but over time, when I was taking the class and after graduating, I started to use it more and more, and started to learn about how I can how to keep my brush from, you know, flaring out like it is doing now, because you can actually use one paint brush to do all your drawings, because you can go from a fine line to a really thick line and fill everything in with this one brush. Because pretty much that's what I used throughout my school years, was this one brush. I never went off and bought another one. My lines were a little bit fatter than what I do nowadays, but it was still like a fine line I was able to get. So once again, this is the Winsor & Newton Watercolor Sable Round number 6. I've known other comic artists and illustrators use this brand and get the smaller versions, and they, you know, swear by it. So in the future, I would like to purchase some more of these paintbrushes and just try out the different sizes. So that's one. And then actually the rest of these brushes, the only other brush that is around is this one. I like to just purchase brushes and just test them out, and I usually just get the watercolor brushes and stuff like that, because, you know, the ink is liquidy, so you want a brush that, you know, goes well with something that's liquidy. So I just randomly purchase brushes and just test them out to see if I like them or not. I mean, I could go off of other people's recommendations, but I also like to, you know, really try and see if I can work with it or not. So this is pretty a nice brush. This is by Escoda. It's a number 4 round brush. It's pretty decent. I don't use it all the time, but out of all the paintbrushes I have at home, I like this one. And then when I go to look for more brushes, I look for liner brushes, because I want to achieve those thin lines. And sometimes I do want to go thicker, but I want to achieve those thin lines. So this is I tend to keep purchasing Princeton Art and Brush Company paintbrushes. And usually it's between liners number 2. This one should be number 2, 2/0, and then the 10/0. So the higher the number on top, the skinnier, the smaller the bristles of the paintbrush is. And so I like to use these to do fine lines. And like I said earlier, I like to do detail art. So I'm going to look for materials that allow me to allow me to produce detail work. So these 3 are all liner brushes, and then I have my round ones, to fill in and block in some of the larger areas that I need. And I use the same ink, the Speedball, the PH Martin, with my paintbrushes. And so I don't know if y'all are wondering why I have a toothbrush on the table. Well, y'all can't see it, but I'm gonna show y'all. So this is a toothbrush. It is dirty, and yeah. So the reason why I have this toothbrush is that I have a couple of drawings to where I wanted to flick black ink onto my paper to get a certain look or texture. And like I have a drawing of like 2 boys with water guns, and I wanted to show like a splattering effect. And so I use this to create that effect, that splattering effect. So what I do is I get like a little bowl like this, and I use this bowl for my paintbrushes. At the moment it is dirty. I'm sorry about that, guys. I'll clean it later.
Why?
But
leave it.
I'll clean it
It's
later. Actually, pretty much all my bowls and my little plates are just covered in paint and ink. I need to go clean those. But I'll put ink in here. I'll put the toothbrush right in there. Put just a little bit. I don't want too much. And then once you have it on there, you hover around your drawing and you just flick in the areas you want to. Please, if you do this in like an area where you don't want ink anywhere, because it will stain and it will be there forever. Like my table, my poor table has ink on it and it's hard to clean up. So that's more of a technique, but that's the reason why I have this not paintbrush, but this toothbrush. Yeah. So that is all like the tools I use. And oh, I forgot about these. This goes with the pencils. So when I do a drawing with my pencils, I tend to go heavy-handed when I draw, and I'm trying to work on that. All artists are always striving to do better, and so I have these 2 erasers, and so this is a gum eraser. I think the brand is called Gumroad or something. It's something gum. And then I have these kneaded erasers, and I mean this brand is by Faber-Castells, but you can find any kneaded eraser and it'll work fine as long as you know how to knead it. But I use both of these to erase some of my line work, because once again I have a heavy hand, and when I'm going into ink I don't want all that lead like smudging and everything. So I like to erase a little bit of the line and then go into ink, and then after I'm done, when I say I like to erase with the gum first, and then I go in later on with the drawing. After I finish inking and everything, I go in with the kneaded eraser. Good God, this is stuck. I knead it, get it clean, because with the kneaded eraser you can clean off whatever is on there, and then after you clean it off, just go in and start erasing what you don't want there anymore, erasing all the pencil marks. So yeah, so that's all the pens and brushes and pencils I use to do my drawing. Now let's talk about paper. Unfortunately, I didn't bring the papers I use because I have this tendency to draw on really large sheets of paper, like 24 by 36, and I'm not bringing all that with. I wasn't gonna bring all that with me. So the types of paper I use is I've been leaning towards Canson. I've been using their paper for a while. I like their paper. I like their bristles. I like their watercolor paper, and everything. They even have the loose leaf sheets where you can also draw on those. I like to purchase the loose leaf sheets too. I also have a tendency to buy it's Arches, Arches. It's a paper meant for printmaking. I mean, you can use it for whatever you want. It can be used for watercolor too, but when I was in school, I used it for printmaking. And so that paper I love because it has this frayed edges all around, and I like that type of style in my art, so I would buy those loose leaf sheets. And then the other paper I would use is pretty much regular paper, cardstock. I'll use any paper I can get my hand on to draw. But when it comes to specific styles and materials I'm using, the type of paper I use does come in play. So when I'm using like my just traditional like pens and microns and stuff like this, and sometimes my pocket brush pens, I'll just use like whatever paper I like have at the time, like cardstock, mixed media paper, sketchbook paper that has a little bit of weight to it, because it can withstand the weight of the ink and stuff like that. So that's the type of paper I like to use. Now when I'm doing my dip pens and my brushes, I like to use a heavier stock paper like the Canson paper. Right now I've been using the Canson's recycled paper, extra large. I think it's about 140 pounds. It's the Bristol paper, and I use it, and the reason why I use it is that when you use a dip pen on smooth paper, it doesn't mess up your nibs, it doesn't bend it, it doesn't warp your tips, because there are papers like watercolor papers that are, I believe, called cold press papers, and if you get a cold press paper, it's gonna be bumpy. And so that's what a lot of watercolor paper is. It's bumpy, but also allows the water to, or whatever wet medium you're using, to soak up into the paper. But if you use a nib on that type of paper, because it's so bumpy and rough, it's actually gonna mess up your nib. It's gonna like split the ends. I had one to where I didn't know better. I actually broke a tip off, and I was just like, oh crap, because that was a nice nib and I paid a lot of money for it. But when you're doing dip pens and stuff like that, and sometimes, you know, the pocket brush pens too, and paint brushes, because if you do it on the cold press paper with the bumps and everything, you will get like that uneven line on this unevenness on your lines. Even though it looks even, it's going to be like, because there's texture, it's going to look kind of uneven. And so if you want to avoid that, then get like Bristol paper. I mean, cardstock works pretty well too. Vellum, I've heard, works, or what illustrators use and stuff like that, works very well too, because it's so smooth. I personally have not used vellum, but in the future I would love to use vellum and just work with it. So let's see, when I use my paint brushes, I'll use either hot press or cold press paper. I did not explain what hot press paper is. Hot press is the opposite of cold press. It's smooth, and it's pretty much like cardstock and your sketchbook paper is. It's smooth. It's not rough or anything. If it's rough, it's gonna be cold press. If it's smooth, it's gonna be hot press. But I like to use my paint brushes on both hot and cold press, actually, because I tend to like the texture that cold press gives when you paint on top of it. That's just a preference that I have. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. If you do, go ahead and try it. But definitely, I use my regular pens on hot press paper, sketchbook paper, cardstock, whatever I can find. I use my pocket paintbrush pens I use it on cardstock, but the problem with using it on there is because it's so light, it will warp. Any paper will warp if you put too much water on it, but I tend to. It's just if you saturate it too much, it'll start to warp. I tend to not do that, so I just randomly use cardstock. I also use Bristol board, and I use the different types of printmaking paper, like the Art Biz and Canson paper for my pocket brushes. When I use my nibs, I use the hot press, which is my sketchbook, my any paper smooth, whatever paper you can find that's smooth, that's the paper you want to use, because you don't want to break your nib, you don't want to warp it, because you're going to have to go out and buy another one. You need to take care of those nibs. And then same thing with these pocket pens with the paintbrush. I use both papers. It's what I just like the way it looks. So all right, so that is the paper. So now I'm going to show you some examples. Last night I took one of my drawings and I scanned it in, and I made smaller samples, and I did different styles and techniques. And so I'm going to push these to the side right now. So give me a minute, guys. Are y'all still there? Hi, it's nice to meet you guys. Wave to the camera.
How do you figure out what's the best paper for you when you're starting out? Do you?
Right now we're in the age of technology. You can really just go on the internet and people will tell you, like, for beginners you can use this or that. But if you're a beginner,
this is what's at Flax right now.
Oh, cool! Thank you so much.
Some of what we got.
Yeah,
here.
so this is the paper I was talking about. I use Bristol paper, just the larger pad. Mm-hmm. I don't buy the smaller pad. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I don't know why I do that. But it comes like this. It is smooth to the touch. Not too smooth. I've felt paper that's really smooth. It has somewhat of a little texture to it. But this paper is great for illustrations, if you're doing sequential art, if you want to do comics, if you want to just do basic doodles or anything. And it works well with your pocket pens, your microns, your nibs. It works pretty well with that. Let's see if I got in your paintbrushes. So it works very well with all this.
So you like smooth paper, but still puffy and thick.
Yeah. So because it has to have a weight to it, because each paper, like when I was talking about the difference between hot and pressed, if you put too much like water on any one of them, it'll still warp. Like it's going to do it, but one paper will not warp as much as the other one. But because I don't do a lot of like large drawings that require because I don't do a lot of large drawings that requires me to do large areas of black, I tend to just go for the Bristol paper that doesn't need, that won't super curl. So that won't curl up or bend or warp. So I just stick with this. Now, like I did say earlier, that I like to use both papers because of the texture of one of them. And when I do large ink areas or areas with a lot of ink, I will, use my watercolor paper that I got like from Art Source and stuff like that.
And but that's thicker.
Yeah, it's much thicker and heavier. This is only 96. I have paper. The one I actually have is 140 pounds or something. So the higher the weight, the easier it can hold the ink and stuff like that. And plus it just feels official when you have a heavier paper, right?
You feel like a pro.
I feel like a professional.
So what about like sketch paper like this? Is there an advantage to using that at all?
It has a little bit of grip. So this one, if I use this sketch paper, it's legitimately what it is sketch paper.
You don't necessarily want to do inking on it?
I wouldn't want to run my nib on this. It has somewhat of a grip on it. You can do a little bit of it, but I've had times when I've run my nib on something like this, and sometimes, I don't know if I'm going too hard or not, but some of the paper will pick up and grab, my nib will grab some of the fibers, and I'll just be like, that's not good. But if you're doing like ink, like just regular like pens and stuff like that, and pencil drawings and stuff like and everything, these are good. I would use these. I wouldn't use like, you can go with your marker, but be prepared for it to bleed. If you want to definitely use your marker on there. I would suggest taking like not another thin sheet of paper, but like chipboard or anything hard, you know. Oh, okay, this is huge. Anything like this to put underneath your drawing to you know, catch all that that bleed that's going to happen. So what's another thing over here?
Well, I got more paper, but it's all drawing paper.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when I
bond. And then
I
Flax has
haven't
a
used
few
that one.
sales right now, and we got some Fabriano, but I can't.
I don't know what this is. This is 156.
120?
No, it's
Oh.
56. It's acid free. White. Blah 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 blah. Oh, okay. It's on the back. Sorry, guys. Nope. I cannot read a different language.
Yeah, it's just 120 grams right here. So
I'm reading.
56 pounds.
It's a cold press, so it has texture on it. So you don't really want to use your nib on this. Really, the thing is, anything that is, like I said, bumpy is cold press, and it has a grip to it. You don't want to run your nib over that, because you're going to damage your nib, and you're going to split it. It's going to break and everything.
And your line
you
won't
just
be
don't,
consistent,
and it
right?
won't be consistent. You won't get the look you're looking for. You want to use smooth paper. And if you wanted to, you know, have some weight, get a heavier stock paper. So yeah.
The heavier, the thicker, the more legit you feel.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
you can show us your drawings now.
Yeah,
Let's see.
so like I was saying earlier, I scanned some stuff in, I printed it out and cut it down, and I did some different styles on the samples. So right now, let's do it this way. So right now, I have some samples of the different types of pens and brushes I use on the drawings. So actually, let's do it in order of how the heck I did this. So the first one, I use my pocket brush pen. This one right here. This style is used for if you want if you don't want to put any shading, but you want it to have like weight to it and be dramatic, you can use a pocket brush pen, or you can use a Sharpie. You just have to not Sharpie, but a marker or a pen. You just have to really go in and color your drawing thicker in some areas. And so what I did is I made, wherever I had to think of a light source, and so the light source is kind of hitting her in the face, and a face and above kind of, and so you can see that because on the top her hair is thin. That means their light source is kind of above her and everything. And then you see under her chin, this area right here is a lot darker. That's because there's a shadow right there. So wherever my thicker lines are, it's supposed to be a shadow in that area. And wherever my lines are thinner, it's supposed to be, you know, a highlight and stuff like that. But this is a great way for not to add value or shadows or anything, but to just suggest that there is like value there, and bring more expression into your work, just in like a simpler way. Let's see. All right, another style I sometimes do is this, where I will take I'm just gonna grab my micron.
Yeah, show us the pens you're using.
Yeah. Actually, let me do it this way. Let's do it this way. Ooh, this one is a combination. I don't have that.
Oh, it has the words on it.
Yeah. Oh, I wrote them all down, but I'm still on show. But this one I use microns with because I like microns, and this one's more line work, thinner line, not a lot of line variation, because I'm gonna go into similar to this, to where I take the pen and I actually just, you know, go in and thicken up that area that's supposed to be a shadow. So that's a style. Some people use this to do, like, you know, graphic work, like stickers, and, you know, not a lot of shadows, just like your flats and then your darks. That's pretty much it. And I tend to like this style sometimes when I just want to like see what my drawing looks like as just like an ink drawing, and but not like overly dramatic or anything. So I use a micron for this drawing, and then this one's a combination of all of three pens. It is it's this one. Wait, can y'all see that? I don't know. Pigma, micron, this thing right here, and then the PH Martin, and a brush, somewhere a brush. I don't know where I put my brushes. And a brush. So right now, the style I do is at the moment it's a combination of pens and paintbrushes. So this style, and you can see the paper is warped. My dumb self decided to use cardstock and put ink on there. This is one of the reasons why you don't want to use like ink on like a paper that's really thin or like a hot press paper, because it will warp really badly. But if you want to do that, there is a way to make it flat again. And if you ever taken a printmaking class, I don't know if any of my college friends are listening to this, so they should kind of know this already, and or anyone who's done printmaking in general. You can take a giant metal plate, not a plate, but whatever, a giant metal sheet or something that you can be able to lift. It still has to be heavy, and just put your drawing face down. Make sure there's something underneath so the ink, if it's wet or anything, doesn't mess up. And just put the sheet on top of it and let it sit for like a day or two, and it should flatten back out.
Can you use a fat book? Book?
If you don't got no metal, use like fat books. Use those encyclopedias that no one uses anymore. Use a giant dictionary. I don't know. Sit on it or something.
No.
But definitely that's one of the things I do when my drawing's curling up too much. I'll put something really heavy on it, and just so it lays flat again. I actually use that technique. I don't even know why I thought I was not going to use it, but I use it at work too, because I do copy and print, and sometimes we'll print these large drawings on cardstock that curl up so badly that we have to put books and paper on top of it. So you learn things in college, you use them in life. Yeah, you learn things in school. But this is definitely a combination of everything I've done, all the pens I use or have. This is my style at the moment. It gives it texture, it gives it life just like this, and makes it dramatic, especially with her hair. It's actually I don't have any crisp lines with it. It's more of a sketchy kind of feel to it, but a little bit not too sketchy. There is like some even lines in there, but right here I just feel it has life in it. It's like this person's here and alive and just ready to enjoy her day. So yeah. So the next one, and I haven't done this style for quite a while, and it was so much fun doing this again, especially her hair. So this is the ballpoint pen. So this is what I can do with a ballpoint pen. So you only have one value, just like the rest of these. You only have one value or color. It is whatever, black, blue, red. In this case I use blue because I couldn't find my black pen. So you only have one color, and the ballpoint pen, you can get a range of values with. You can just get a range of them, not as much as a pencil, but you come pretty close to it. If you can see, you can see how there's a highlight right here. It gets darker when you go towards the hat or towards the back area. You can see the same thing in the hat. You can see I did some hatching and cross hatching to give that values, to give a deeper shadow and stuff like that. Like if I was to have only one pen to use to do my art and everything and drawings, I would use a ballpoint pen, because a lot of artists sketch with a ballpoint pen. Actually a ballpoint pen will make you feel I've heard that some artists feel more confident laying their lines down when they sketch with ballpoint pens. I feel like that when I use a ballpoint pen, because once I go back in to do a drawing, I'm like, oh, I definitely want this line here. Oh, I definitely want this shadow over here. So the ballpoint pen will train you into like knowing, feel more confident in your sketching process and your drawing process, because you're using something that is similar to a pencil, but yet you're not allowed to erase. So you have to think about where you're putting your lines and everything, and where you're putting your shadows and stuff like that. So the ultimate tool is the ballpoint pen, actually. It is not the pencil, guys.
All right. Ultimate tool. Okay, we have one question online. And let me switch.
Yes, guys, ask any questions, because I don't know what those questions are. Only
All
one
right.
piece of person knows.
All right, let me fix the sound. Hold on. The question is, how did you get that texture on the hair? What was the actual tool that you used to get that hair?
So the pen I used, and actually after I finish showing you all this, I'm gonna do a demonstration actually on how to get texture and shape and value and stuff like that. But right now the tool I used was the Micron pen, and you actually can use any pen to get this texture. So let me get rid of, oh, let's actually leave that there. Let's move this one way over here. So these are this is a uninked drawing. And so the way I approach her hair is I actually use my paintbrush and filled everything in. I'm not gonna actually open this because I'm wearing a white shirt, and I am not gonna get my white shirt dirty.
Do you wear like dark clothes or an apron?
I always wear black. Always black. But I'm gonna take I'm gonna take this really nice marker that everyone should have in their pockets, and I'm just gonna go in. I'm just gonna go crazy. Oh, Kelsi, why are you doing that? You should be more careful and smooth.
Yeah, it looks crazy.
Screw you guys. I'm going to do this.
That's how kindergartners draw.
That's right. You learn things in kindergarten. You learn things in school. Don't ever leave. I'm just playing. But I'll do this. I'll fill it in, and I wouldn't scribble like this. I would not. I would use a paintbrush, because look at that. Oh my gosh, it's fading out. This is actually going to drive me crazy. But yeah, this is actually going to drive me crazy. Let me get a Sharpie. It's going to drive me. I'm just trying to get a certain area filled in. But let's see. I feel like maybe I should have prepared this drawing beforehand to where it was already all bulky and stuff.
So you're switching between markers now.
Yeah, I'm switching between. I'm getting anything that I can lay down the color, faster, but still have a nice deep, a nice rich black. And actually, be careful when you do that, because not all black is the same color. Because right now, even though I switch, I don't know if y'all can see it, but a Sharpie is more on the blue side compared to this. This is more on the, it looks a little red, almost neutral kind of. So you want to be careful when you switch between blacks. And you want to do the same thing with ink too. You want to be very careful because it has a tint to it. So right now I'm like, oh crap, that is freaking blue, that Sharpie. But since I am committed, I am just going to continue on. But I wouldn't use a Sharpie on my drawing. Like, I wouldn't. This is just for me to get it down. But if you do use a marker, yeah, be careful with the type of black you use. If you use that one black, you better have a good amount of that black so you can finish your drawing. You don't want to use different markers. unless they're in the same family or made by the same company. Because I think if it's in the same company, I think they use the, you know what, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't work in the factory. So let me keep going. My Sharpie is slowly dying. Oh no.
But you don't get rid of markers once the ink goes low, because you can get other different types of textures and tones with it, right?
You can get different shading and values and stuff like that. You can do some really cool drawings with those. Actually, don't get rid of any of your art materials if there's still a little bit of products, because you might be able to create a really cool drawing out of it. That's with anything, actually. Like if you're running low on some lead, I don't know, you can probably take that little stubble of a lead and run it against your paper to create some weird texture or something. You don't want to really get rid of any of your art materials. I still have art materials from high school that I probably should throw away, but I will not. Alright, so her hair is almost done. Sorry it's taking so long to do this, guys, but I'm a slight perfectionist, which is not good. Alright, so I have it filled out. Now I'm going to take, where's the number 5? Because I used the number 5. I already wrote it down to do this.
And that's for the edges?
That's for the edges. Now you don't have to use a number 5, but if you go any smaller, you're gonna have to put more more effort into it, some more lines. This is way too skinny. Like, what the heck? All right, I'll just use a number 3. So I'm just gonna have to put a lot more curls into it, because the number 5 is the number 5 is thicker than the number 3. So I'm just gonna so pretty much what I do is like these circles, because when you draw black girls' hair, sometimes they have really tight coils. Like me, my hair right now is packed down because I have really tight, like spring-like coils, and it's pretty much a spring, and so that's how I'm treating her hair, like this. She has like millions of springs on her hair, so I'm pretty much creating like circular patterns. So if you actually, let's push that to the side. So I'm pretty much doing this. That's all I'm doing. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. Let me know if y'all can see that or not. But it just looks just like that. And so I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to try to, so right now I have a harsh line right here. I'm trying to fade that out. I'm trying to get rid of that harsh line that I created with the Sharpie. But other than that, that's pretty much all I do. It's just these looping circles or coils, and I just keep doing that until it looks like, she has like a little mini fro, little textured fro. So yes. And not just for the textured fro, I'm just gonna throw this in. I don't know if y'all can see it, but there's little flyaways on this drawing, little hair flyaways. The ballpoint pen allows me to create those fine lines and show that she has like millions of billions of like strands of hair on her head. So if you want it to look like someone's hair, you need to take the time to actually study real hair, get to know the textures, get to know like the patterns on on top of people's crown of their head. And once you observe that, you'll be able to take your ink pen and reduce it down to like the basic shapes to get like that texture. So let's see, another one I have is, and I can't exactly do this because I really don't want to mess up my white shirt, guys. I really don't. This is a bleed. So how I made this drawing is that I take some water. Let's see. Let's pretend like there's. Can you see it? let's pretend there's like water in here. I would take some water, just plain old water. I'll put my brush in, and I'll start drawing out one of the letters. I put a good amount of water, and this type of paper is I'm not too sure, because one year I was trying some random paper, and I can't remember the name, but this is that cold press paper that I was talking about earlier, the loose leaf paper, and I actually folded it and ripped it apart to get it to the size and get those little edges that I have. So this is my cold press paper, and this will hold the water in very well. And so this is how, like, you know, it's not as warped as my other drawings like this is. It's holding the water. It was able to get these beautiful designs and stuff like that. So the way I did this is I have my water in here. I'll dip my brush in there, and I'll draw the letter out. I'll make sure there's a good amount of water, like a puddle of water that creates the letter H. And after I do that, I'll take my ink, and I'll just take the tiniest of ink, and I'll touch the water, and it'll start to, the water will grab the ink, and it will absorb the ink, and it'll spread it out to create whatever pattern it wants to. So this is another style that a lot of color artists use. It's awesome to create really cool textures and designs in, because it has like a mind of its own. So that's one style. I would love to do a video of like a really cool design just using this technique. So hopefully I can create a design and you'll see like an image/video of that. So let's see.
And did you bring an exercise? Is that what it is right there?
Yeah, so right here is pretty much an exercise. I actually should have done this before showing examples. So the way you can achieve like the styles that I have, like this blue drawing right here, the line, oh, not the line drawing, the blue drawing here, and there's some just some line work down here. A lot of artists use, or they practice their basics. Pretty much, if you know your basics, you'll be able to, you know, do whatever you want, create wherever you want. So right now on this form, I have a practice sheet. The practice sheet has like a circle on it where I have a light source coming from the upper left hand corner. And if y'all shouldn't recognize this because I made it myself, but y'all should recognize what I'm about to do. If you ever had art class or went to art camp and they gave you like a form to fill out, you know, values and stuff like that. So what I'm about to show you is I'm going to show you how to take just your basic pen or like a micron and create like different shadows ranging from darkest to lightest. Let's see. So the first one is hatching. Hatching is, right now I have an example on here. Hatching is just, you know, lines, just lines. It's pretty much just you creating lines. You can space them out to make them wider. If you do that, it creates more, it makes it look, your drawing look lighter. If you bring them closer together like here, if you bring them close together like this, it makes it darker. It gives it a darker shadow. I wish I had a thicker brush. No. Give me just a second, guys. I actually don't want to do this with a really tiny Alright, so this is the number 5. So I'm just gonna turn it this way so I can see. So my light source is coming from up top. So anything that's dark is gonna be right here, and then I create this thin little oval right here, which is gonna be my shadow. And I'm gonna make a spear. So I'm just gonna start from the bottom and start doing my lines. And they don't have to be even like how I did this drawing. Right here on the ball, I created these lines that are actually even and kind of curve and go in like a circle. You don't really have to do that as long as you know, make your lines. I'm not the greatest at hatching because my lines are not straight or even at all. So the closer to the light source you get, the less lines you're going to need. But the closer away from the light source you get, you know, the darker it's going to get. Yeah. And I think if y'all ever done this practice, like done this little spear shading thing, you know that there's like this light on the other side where the light source is. This is not technically proper cross hatching, but you know it's gonna suit my needs for right now. You know, you don't have to be, you know, even professional. I need to stop saying that word. You can be whatever you want as long as you're able to achieve darkness and lightness with, like, you know, just lines. You're fine. Like you're good to go. Trying to rush me then. Trying to get me out of here. We're almost done. It's gonna take a minute.
We got a lot of good comments. Jason Clark says, "Teach me how woman."
Hi, Jason.
He also says that he just bought ink for the first time.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Have fun. Don't wear a white shirt. Swear to God. You're
Don't
gonna
wear a white
regret it.
I know all my clothes have ink or paint of some kind.
Well, and also I said earlier, I focused in ceramics actually when I was in school.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no need to wear a white shirt at all or any colors. I only wore black. Like, I have a black shirt my mom hates so much because it has holes and bleach on it, and I've had it for about 5 years now. She wants to throw it away, and I'm like, no, it's my dingy, dirty shirt.
Have you ever used an apron? Is that something?
I have used an apron.
What do you call it? A mock or smock?
I've used that, and I hate it. I just like, I'd rather just be dirty. Just
kind of like a barber. You know, the barber's
yeah,
barber.
but I just rather be dirty. I just rather be dirty. I don't really care. Because once I go home and take that nice shower, oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This could be a little bit better. We're just getting the idea down. We're not trying to be too professional.
Mm-hmm.
I actually will probably go and make a professional looking one that's a little bit nicer. Let's see. Alright, so right now what I'm doing is I'm just going back in and just adding some more lines to make it like a darker area. Yeah, just trying to make it darker. Let's see. And if I used my thinner one, which would have taken longer, but you have been able to achieve a darker area. So I can actually switch my pen and go for a skinnier nib or tip and go in again through these spaces and make it even more, you know, make it even thinner. I mean darker. But right now this is pretty good. You know, there's some light, there's that cast shadow, and then we're going to go into the cast shadow and really, you know, do the shadow. When I do my cross hatching, I've seen videos where artists their cross hatching doesn't really overlap. My not cross hatching, but my hatching will overlap because I'm just like doing this. I'm just like rushing. Alright. Yeah, so I'm just trying to get it dark. So that's my hatching.
Sarah says, what is your website portfolio? I'd like to see more of your work.
Go to KelsiJackson.com. It's KELSI then Jackson.com. Yeah, on my website is mainly portraits. If you want to see a lot of my work, a lot more of my work, or a range of things I do, go to my Instagram. My Instagram is at BGIllustrations. That has like a range of stuff on there, like my digital, my inking, my ceramics, and everything on there. But
KelsiJackson.com.
KelsiJackson.com. And so you're gonna see the home page, and then you're gonna go up top and go to illustrations and stuff like that. But definitely, if you want to see Sarah, if you want to see a lot more of my work, instead of the portraits, go to my Instagram page. So next we're gonna do cross hatching. All right, cross hatching. So cross hatching is pretty much hatching, but you're just going to go back over it with different at a different direction. So this is how I do my cross hatching. I get one side first, and usually you could do really long lines and then go in and create long lines the opposite way, just going from light to darker, spacing out your lines. But right now, this is pretty much how I do my cross hatching, because like I said earlier, I do large drawings, and I'm not trying to spend like months on ends on a drawing. So sometimes I will, but not all the time. So I'm going to treat it like my hatching, but I'm just going a different direction. And it looks a lot more dramatic, which is what I really like. I like that a lot. I like drama. Drama is amazing. I would love to create spacing just using pen and ink, and just like these techniques. It would be really cool just to do that. Alright, so next I'm going to go the opposite direction, and like my hatching is not clean. I'm not going to be clean. I just want to get the darkest values that I can.
And right now we're just using the microns, right?
Yeah, just you can use you can use these techniques on microns, with microns, the ballpoint pens, and you can use it with markers. Actually, you just have to be a little bit more careful with the markers, and usually it's for a larger drawing or something, unless you get those really thin tips like the micron ones. If you're wondering about the brush, using brushes and stuff like that, I'm gonna do a separate talk on the finer details of using a brush pen and a paintbrush and stuff like that, because that is a whole talk in itself. Well, some of these techniques don't work too well with the pocket brush pen or paint brushes. Maybe the hatching will work a little bit better. Other than that, it's only with the micron and the ballpoint pens and stuff like that. So the next one, I just finished cross hatching. This is the final results. It is kind of like it. Next, I'm going to do my multi-directional. And so what multi-directional is that you're pretty much doing scribbles. You're just doing scribbles, just going in all different directions. And I think there's another name I've heard it be called before, but I know it as multi-directional. So once again, if y'all are new or coming back, I'm going to start from the darkest to the lightest, because it's actually easier for me to build up my shadows and then go to my light source with the pen, because I just know how dark I need it. And after I lay down the basics, I guess, I'll go back into the shadow area and really darken it up. So right now we're just gonna do multi-directional, which is legitimately which is just this. Really is only this.
Which is scribble scrabble.
It's just scribble scrabble.
And
Do
you
be
want
careful.
to do those because
You do this to get a certain texture. Actually, you can do this with hair. You can do it for afro, I guess. You can do it for clothing, like wool. Is it wool or I don't know, the shirts, the sweaters that have like the hair and whatever the heck it's called. You can do this with that. You can this is pretty much used for texture. You can actually use any of these styles that you're seeing right now, and then the other one I'm about to do for texture. So like if you're just drawing with a pen, you can use hatching for like grass, like help you create grass, or help you create like, I've seen some people use it for mountain ranges and stuff like that, like beautiful mountain ranges. And I've seen people use, actually last night I was watching this guy draw hay, like a bay of hay, only using hatching technique. So you can use these techniques to create different, styles and get different textures. This might be a little bit harder with this micron. This will be much easier with a ballpoint pen, actually. I just thought about that. But, I'm committed to it. I'm going to stick with it.
what you can change.
Nope.
And,
nope, we're going to stick with it.
And a ballpoint pen because it glides easier.
Yeah, and like earlier, I'm going to show y'all again. You can create, you can go really light with your ballpoint pen compared to with a micron, which is just one weight all the way. But I like a challenge. We got this. We're just gonna have to treat it kind of like a ballpoint pen. So when you get your materials and a pen or stuff like that, really try different techniques with it. Really learn that pen, and see if it works for you or not. Because even though I've never done multi-directional like this for shading like this way with a micron, because I'm so used to using a micron, I kind of know that I can create this range of shadows with it. Range of values with it. So I know I can lightly pick it up and pick up my pen, and it will make very light lines. And when I press down like this, because you can see me go a little bit crazier, you can see how it's getting darker. Yeah, but you don't want to go too hard, because the micron is actually, the tip of it is not a hard point, it's a soft point. Should have said that earlier. All the microns have soft points. Don't jam your micron onto the paper, because you will push it into the little nib area and you're gonna have to throw it away because you messed up your pen. So be careful with it. Take care of your pens. Get to know your pen, and it will be good to you. So let's see, until it dies, and then you gotta get a new one. So right now I'm on the edge, and I don't really want to go outside the line, so I'm just going to just kind of color in the edge. Well, this is pretty much it, actually. I don't want to go too overboard with this, because I actually can. I can spend a good while just doing this. I can spend an hour physically we're on this worksheet trying to perfect the worksheet. So then let's do the drop shadow. I think I messed up that little highlight that's on the other side of my spear, but that's okay. At least you can see, that I created value within my sphere. You didn't know I can do this, Dan, did you? Huh?
You got skills. You got talent. I love it.
You didn't know I had a basic understanding.
I got a few pens and I like to play around. And I love the brushes, but I have very little patience to sit there and try to control the thickness of the line.
That's the
tough.
difference. There's people who are like Dan, who don't want to do that, and they have their own way, which is amazing. Is awesome because they figured out how to create their own style or do it their art their own way. And then there's some people who like photorealism people. You people out there, y'all are crazy.
They're crazy
because y'all spend like months or years on that stuff, and it's just phenomenal, y'all. That is amazing. So the next one I'm doing is the stippling. If you got patience, like we were just talking about, if you have patience for this, go ahead and do it. But if you don't even attempt to do stippling unless you want a certain texture. I don't know why the only thing that comes to my head is someone who just shaved their head. You can do that with stippling. If you trying to think, if you're drawing dirt, and not physically drawing dirt, but if you like made like let's just do this, like this is like the earth or something that I'm drawing right now, and you want to show smaller pieces of clumps or something, and this is from a far distance away. This is not up close to dirt. You can like, stipple it out to be like, this is where the dirt starts to fly away from the actual pile of whatever. Or it doesn't even have to be dirt. It could be like tacks or something from really far away or something. I don't know. But kind of like that. If you want to achieve like something like that, you would do it this way. But stippling can get you like, I've seen drawings of portraits of people done with stippling that is like amazing, and they put in the effort and time to do that, and it just comes out really beautiful. You're able to really get that range of values when you're stippling, just creating dots and stuff like that. I don't know.
The closer you put the dots, the thicker, darker look.
The darker it is, the farther away the dots are, the lighter it is. Well, that applies also to hatching and, cross. Well, it also applies to hatching, not physically cross hatching, but yeah. So right now I am stippling. I followed this one artist. I'm really bad with names, so if I don't say artist names, it's because I suck at remembering their names. But it's just this one guy who does the same thing as me. All he does is black and white. He does ink. He does digital inking, which is just black and white. And he might be done with the drawing. He's now working on a drawing that is consistent of stippling. That's all he's doing. He's using a tattoo machine. So it is. I think he's kind of. I don't know if it's cheating or not because the machine's already doing it. But it's stippling, and the way it looks is phenomenal. It's amazing. And he's a really cool artist. He has a really cool style. It's really cartoony, but his range of values is amazing. He has a really good understanding of light and dark and value. So when I have the time, I'm going to repost that work I'm talking about, that artist, so y'all can see. Let me know if y'all get the basics so I can just stop.
I think we got the basics.
Okay, cool. Because you see the darker it gets. Yeah. Actually, I'm probably going to go home and truly complete this and then do another one and then post it up. But yeah.
My eyes are over here now.
Oh, you moved over here? Okay. So yeah, so I'm going to, so this is pretty much the form complete or semi-complete. I'm just going to finish this when I go home, when I have watching a movie.
So let's hold that and let's see what it looks like.
There you go.
Just it. Very nice. Very intense. And then that's a scribble. Call it multi-directional.
You call it multi-directional scribbles. There was some other word, but I don't remember. Then above that is the hatching, where it's just one direction. A line's in one direction. You must pick a direction and stick with it. And then the closer the lines are, the darker it is. The further apart they are, the lighter it gets. And the cross hatching is a combination of not combination, but it's cross hatching where you make multiple lines in different directions.
Different directions.
Yeah. Once you do one direction, kind of stick with it until you feel like you need to go another direction to build up that shadow. And you can do it however you want. It doesn't have to be just the two like that. It could be like that, where it really crosses over. It can be like that. That's pretty much cross hatching.
As long as the hatching crosses.
Yes. So I'm gonna show you some example of like a color drawing I did with after I inked my piece. So this is a girl I did in 2016. I did a lot of portraits in 2016 and up to now. So right here I used this is when this little guy was still fresh and didn't have a whole bunch of gunk in it. Right now it has a whole bunch of gunk in it. I'm actually gonna go downstairs and buy a whole new one. But I used this to, do the outline of her and stuff like that. Did the hair with just this one brush pen. Varied the line thickness to make it more dramatic and stuff like that, to show the highlights and darks. And then because I put my Speedball ink in here, it made it waterproof. So now after I did the line drawing, I went back in with my watercolor and actually colored her in. The outside is actually paint, but the rest of this is watercolor. So if you want to color your piece after lining it, make sure you're using a waterproof pen or ink, because if you don't use that, like earlier, you're gonna get smudging your hand. Like if you sweat on your hand, and you will start to sweat after after drawing for so long, you're gonna end up smudging your ink, and you don't want that.
No.
Yeah. And let's see. I think the watercolors I use, if anyone's interested, is Winsor and Newton. I love their watercolors. They're really cool. I get the tubes actually. I don't have the palette. I get the actual tubes. I buy the individual tubes, and I make my own little palette and stuff like that. So they're pretty cool if you're interested in what watercolors I use. So that's that. So now I'm going to clear off the table and show you some more drawings with like this guy or the micron or the paintbrush, which I can't find anymore. So I'm just gonna move everything out the way. Pray that doesn't fall and break. Oh, Lord, So this is my carrying case for my drawings. Can you see? These are, a lot of this stuff right here is a little bit older, like 2016. These are all those, I did a study of birds for a couple of days, and this was done with the brush pen. This was done with the brush pen. Should probably sit down. See that?
Let me fix this here.
Be like, see mine. So this was done with the brush pen. I actually looked at a bird and I studied it. I studied where the lightest part of the bird was and where the darkest part of the bird was. And with using ink, you really have to do that if you're just gonna focus on using ink to do all your drawings, because you want it to still look like the bird without the color and stuff like that. And so the darkest part, there was the reason why the tail is dark, you can sometimes use some of the colors that's within a image or something. Like this bird had like a blue tail. You can actually color that in to indicate like there was color here. It was a deep, rich color. So that's something you can do too, to just give it more definition and make it more realistic. You can go in and fill areas that have richer color with black to just make it look like the drawing you're doing. But other than that, you will really look for the darkest shadows and the lightest shadows, and you're going to just lightly or go in and paint those darker shadows until you hit like the lighter area. Let's see. So there's some more. Bird eating a bee. I'm trying to find the one where, and here, this is where I was studying a bird. an image, and it was perched on a stick, and there was flowers around them. Now the flowers were white actually, but I needed to, because I'm only using one color, I needed to show what those flowers were, not exactly what color they were, but what the actual form or shape looked like. So this is also another thing to where if you need to show what object that is, what's around that bird, you can just go in and just, you know, draw the stem and draw little dots around, because that's pretty much what the flower looked like. It was just a stem with dots around it. So there's some exception to like the rules of just finding the darkest shadow and painting it. You can use it to color in shapes and stuff like that to just show that there's something there to show form. I'm going to skip that. And then here is an example of kind of like hatching with a paintbrush pen. So I went in, they're more a little curved, but it's still a form of hatching, especially in the berries. That is hatching that's going on in there. I had to be very careful actually, and very precise, and really like go in on the paper and just kind of like really do my thing. But that's actually an example of hatching. Let's see. A lot of these birds actually are an example of hatching because a bird has a lot of feathers on it. So one way to indicate that there's like fur or feathers is to use hatching, or to show that there's fur on your skin, there's hair on your skin, there's feathers on this bird and stuff like that. So, oh my gosh, how did blue get on here? Okay, we're not gonna pay attention to that. And then this is a form of blocking in. This is also too. This is a form of blocking in, and this is a great example of what I'm talking about. You're looking. It's perched on like a mount of dirt, and the light was hitting over in this area actually, and the shadow was cast over here. This is a great example of you're looking for your darkest darks, and you're looking for the darkest dark, and you're going to color that in and leave everything else white to indicate like either the color or a highlight. And this is also a good example too. This is an example of texture, patterns. There's actually a pattern on this bird, this owl, and on the bug. I don't know if y'all can see that there is actual patterns on this bug. So yes. So there's some more stuff. There's some more little drawings I did in color. There's another watercolor of a girl where I did the thicker lines with the paintbrush, and I went in, you know, to color it. And then here's an example of just using a micron and not adding thickness or anything, just drawing with just a line, and then going in with color. So this is the result of just doing that, you know, because you're using the watercolors to create shadow and stuff like that. You're just using the pen to just outline. So, and then I have some more drawings, some drawings to show like how thickness can make a drawing look more dramatic and more expressive. I did this 2017, nope, 2016 all the way. 2016 to where I did those curly lines to do the hair. I did the hatching on the neck to show shadow. This is a combination of like hatching, multi-directional, especially in the hair, filling in, and varying my line thickness with the brush pen. So, and then the rest of this,
we can leave it right down.
Oh, okay, I didn't even see that.
We're gonna do this one. This is right here, right there, perfect.
Yeah, so pretty much this is a combination of using the pens and multi-directional. So that's kind of like the basics.
That's a lot of textures in there.
Yeah, this one. So these are the same things, just you know, the more texture and color is within the hair and stuff like that. So now the thing that Dan pointed out, I recently did a drawing, an illustration of like a little boy walking into the woods, and I might go back in and add more, you know, dark areas. But I was looking at a image of a road with a whole bunch of trees in along the sides, and I wanted to use that drawing, but you know, I'm only using ink. I don't want to color it. So I had to study the drawing, do sketches of the drawing, whether it was with pen or pencil, and see where I can lay my blacks and stuff like that. But pretty much what I wanted to do was indicate that it is a dark forest with like leaves and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So right now it seems a little light in here. It seems like the light source is coming through here and it's not really hitting in here. That's because it was taking me highly too long to do this. So at the moment it's put on hold until I can go back and kind of like make it look darker. But this is a combination of using the paintbrush pen. Actually, I did not use a micron for this. I used my handy dandy pen that I cannot pronounce. And this was used, like I said, I used this for my details, like fine point details. I love this pen for that. So those are the two I use, and I use a pencil, you know. And this is actually on my watercolor paper, so there is a texture on it. But because I am not using a nib, it's okay, and it looks so professional.
Mm-hmm. It looks good. I like it like that. You're done. That's finished.
And I think that's it until I add some more stuff in there.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Big drawing.
So these are my drawings. So that's pretty much it, guys. Just to recap. Yeah, I forgot about
Put them
this.
all in there.
I just experiment, guys. Actually, that's pretty much what I had to do. I actually watched videos, but you need to get materials that work for you. Not everything's gonna work for everyone. You know, so like I don't, even though I use dip pens, I don't use them all the time because I have these pens right here that I can use. I don't use my paintbrush all the time, especially if I need to be somewhere and be drawing somewhere. You know, you gotta get stuff that works for you, and you can that'll be useful, you know, and be able to create whatever you need to create. So I only do ink drawings really, and the other type of drawings I do are digital pieces. So all I need were paper, pen, pencil, and my tablet, and that's it. Like, you know. But if you're interested, you probably are interested, I will put a list of everything that I use on my website, and then you can be able to go to the links and purchase any of the materials that I have here today. So let's see, anything else?
Follow. We have one last piece of advice. What should people start with if they have very small budget? What should they grab? What should they buy first?
If you have a small budget, and I said this earlier, where is it? I can't lose it. It's over here, isn't it? If you got a small budget, I started in, like I said, when I was going to school, all I had was a ballpoint pen. Like, all I used was a ballpoint. Those things are cheap. Just go grab one. Actually, you don't even have to buy one. Just go steal one from somewhere. Majority of my ballpoint pens are stolen.
No.
Yes.
They're borrowed from other places.
No, they're still. I'm just playing. No, they are. But I prefer the zebra actually. But you can get Pilot, anything. Just grab some paper and start sketching. You don't have to have all this fancy stuff. It's just over time I accumulated this stuff. When I started out, all I had was like those cheap sketchbooks, a ballpoint pen, and a pencil. That's pretty much it. Like, yeah, I don't. To this day, when I'm like at a restaurant and they leave the waitress leaves their little pen, I'll grab a napkin and I'll just start drawing on that. You don't really need a lot. You can do a whole thing with just napkin art.
All right.
But yeah.
Find you online at?
You can find me at www.kelsijackson.com. That is KELSI Jackson.com. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I think there's another social media I just signed up for. I can't remember, but it's at BGIllustrations.
And then on Tapastic, what you got going on?
Tapastic, that's right. I also do comics, even though it's been a minute since I've done one. But you can follow me on Tapastic as BGIllustrations. It's the same thing, BGIllustrations.
And your webcomic is called what?
My webcomic is called A Slice of Life. It's pretty much about the ongoings of my life as a African American woman. That's pretty much it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you guys for coming, and hope to see you at future videos. Bye.